Welcome back to Footballing. Today we are bringing you a very special, highly cinematic explainer where we're going to decode the actual DNA of football's greatest ever captains. Think about it for a second. Every single time a team steps out onto the pitch, 11 players cross that white line, but only one of them carries the absolute weight of a club's entire history, the hopes of literally millions of devoted fans, and the ultimate responsibility for victory or defeat, all wrapped tightly around their bicep. The captain's armband isn't just some piece of fabric, right? It is a sacred badge of honor. So today, we're really going to look at the anatomy of leadership. We're pulling from a massive array of sources to visually break down exactly what makes a legend on the pitch. We're going to dive deep, and I mean really deep, into the psychology, the tactics, and that sheer, unfiltered force of will that separates your simply good captains from the truly, undeniably immortal ones.
So the very first question we have to ask ourselves here is, what actually makes a captain immortal? Because we are moving way beyond simple statistics today. Look, goals and assists are fantastic, obviously, but they don't even begin to tell the full story of true leadership. We're here to explore the heavy emotional gravity of that armband. What does it actually take to inspire greatness on the pitch when your team is down, the crowd is incredibly hostile, and your legs feel like absolute lead? An immortal captain possesses this sort of aura that literally changes the very atmosphere of a stadium. They have this razor-sharp psychological edge that makes their teammates play, 10% better just by being in their presence.
There's an analysis from our sources that puts it absolutely perfectly. The role of captain can often prove the difference between a good team and one which has the ability to become remembered as one of the greats. And honestly, that is the undeniable truth of the sport. A captain doesn't necessarily have to be the most technically gifted player on the roster. They don't need the fanciest footwork, and they certainly don't need the most expensive transfer fee. But what they absolutely must possess is this unyielding, just unbreakable spirit to drive their companions to ultimate glory. They are the spine of the team. When the pressure reaches an absolute boiling point, the team doesn't look over to the tactician on the sideline. They look directly at the player wearing the armband.
Let's dive straight into Section 1, the Ruthless Enforcers.
7. That is the number of Premier League titles Roy Keane secured with Manchester United. Now, in this section, we are examining the intense, entirely uncompromising leadership style that essentially weaponized the armband. Guys like Roy Keane and Sergio Ramos, they didn't lead with quiet, polite suggestions. They led with absolute demands. They created an environment where losing wasn't just disappointing, it was completely, entirely unacceptable. Under Sir Alex Ferguson, Keane was this rock-hard core around which United's winning teams of the 1990s and early 2000s were built. He set strict non-negotiables. There was an expected intensity in training, an expected concentration in transitions, and a total, unwavering demand for excellence. I mean, he policed that dressing room so ferociously that his teammates often feared disappointing him way more than they actually feared losing a match.
The ultimate truth about Keane? He wasn't there to be liked. He was there to make winning inevitable. That really hits the nail completely on the head, doesn't it? Keane demanded perfection. He used blunt confrontation, and let's be completely honest here, a bit of controlled violence on the pitch, to ensure that Tuesday morning training standards translated directly into Saturday afternoon matchday dominance. He would confront problems early and bluntly, which kept the standards incredibly high and meant excuses were completely non-existent. In those gritty, difficult away fixtures, he simplified the entire message for his squad. Win your duels, control the middle of the park, and just run harder than the opponent. Period. Honestly, nothing illustrates his ultimate sacrifice better than the 1999 Champions League semifinal against Juventus in Turin. This is the stuff of absolute legend. United were struggling, and Keane received a yellow card. He knew, instantly, in that exact second, that this booking ruled him out of the Champions League final if they advanced. The dream of playing in the biggest game in European club football was instantly dead for him. But did he wallow in self-pity? Absolutely not. No way. Instead of dropping his head, he put in one of the most monstrous, selfless performances in the history of football. He scored a crucial header and literally, single-handedly dragged his team back into the tie, securing their place in a final he knew he would never get to play in. That right there, that is pure, ruthless leadership.
Now, while Keane represented cold, total accountability, and that controlled violence we talked about, Real Madrid's Sergio Ramos represented something slightly different. He brought an intense emotional anchoring and a deeply passionate competitive fire. If Keane was the cold enforcer, Ramos was the blazing fire. He was the emotional heartbeat of the Santiago Bernabeu. When Real Madrid needed control, he organized the backline. But when they needed pure, unadulterated belief, he provided it with every single punching tackle and every soaring header. Ramos dragged his team's standards upward through sheer willpower.
guiding Real Madrid to a staggering 4 Champions League titles as their captain. Just think about the sheer magnitude of that achievement for a second. 4 European Cups, all with him serving as the emotional anchor for a team loaded with massive egos and global superstars. He had this incredible ability to bring the whole group back to the present moment, whenever the absolute chaos of a final threatened to overwhelm them. He used really simple messages, intense eye contact, and crystal clear tasks to refocus a team of megastars into a single cohesive fighting unit.
So the crucial takeaway here is Ramos's specific formula for these massive finals. First, he meticulously organized the back line. Then, when the team was absolutely desperate, he attacked set pieces with the ferocity of a number 9. I mean, just think of that iconic 93rd-minute header in Lisbon. And most importantly, he never hid from risk. By stepping up and taking on the absolute hardest assignments in the most chaotic moments, he basically gave his teammates the psychological permission to be brave. He simplified the mission down to one idea: follow me into the fire.
All right, let's move on to Section 2, the ultimate warriors.
These next icons led through pure self-sacrifice, unwavering loyalty to their boyhood clubs, and an infectious, game-changing energy that could flip the momentum of a match in a split second. They are what our sources call the catalyst, a leader capable of changing the emotional energy of a match instantly through a defining tackle, an impossible pass, or just a screaming goal. Steven Gerrard was Liverpool's absolute ultimate catalyst. He possessed this almost supernatural sixth sense for knowing exactly when the crowd at Anfield needed a spark. Whenever the stadium grew quiet or the team started to wobble, Gerrard would supply a thunderous, crunching tackle or a 40-yard wonder goal that completely, instantaneously reset the stadium's belief.
And honestly, nothing exemplifies this better than the Miracle of Istanbul in 2005. Picture this: down 3-0 at a halftime to a historically great AC Milan side in the Champions League final. The game was over. All the analysts had completely written them off. But Gerrard absolutely refused to accept defeat. His looping header to make it 3-1 wasn't just a goal. His frantic, pumping wave to the crowd as he ran back to the center circle was a command. It told his team and the traveling fans, "Listen to me, we are not dead yet." He showcased an unbelievable fighting spirit, proving that he would always be the first one to step directly into the fire to shield his team and spark a historic resurrection. Now, if Gerrard was the attacking catalyst famously sparking historic comebacks, Barcelona's Carlos Puyol operated as the ultimate defensive shield. Puyol played in an era where Barcelona had the most beautiful, intricate, creative attackers in the entire world. Guys like Xavi, Iniesta, Messi. But here's the catch. That beautiful tiki-taka football was only actually possible because Puyol was at the back, taking on the brutal, physical, defensive pain so his creative stars could freely express themselves without ever having to look over their shoulders.
Puyol's incredible simplicity when the lights were brightest was an absolute masterclass in humility. Win your duel. Cover your teammate. Celebrate the defensive block just like a striker celebrates a game-winning goal. And above all, absolutely refuse to let ego overtake the collective. Puyol stripped away all the vanity of modern football. He modeled pure humility, maintaining non-stop, incredibly intense training standards by always being the very first to throw himself into a tackle and always being the first to sprint 50 yards back on defense. He was literally the wild-haired, beating heart of the Catalan giant.
And you know what? This model of total, egoless service to the team paid off immensely. To put it in perspective, the massive haul speaks completely for itself. 6 La Liga titles, 3 Champions League titles, a World Cup, and a European Championship. Because Barcelona and Spain's spine trusted him completely, the game just felt easier for everyone else on the pitch. When the match tilted and chaos ensued, everyone simply looked to Puyol and the defensive line straightened right out. He proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that sacrificial leadership yields historic, unmatched dividends on the biggest stages in the world.
Which brings us to Section 3, the elegant maestro.
Because look, leadership isn't always about screaming at the top of your lungs or diving into bloody sliding tackles in the mud. Paolo Maldini wore the captain's armband for AC Milan for a staggering 15 years. 15 years! This was all part of a legendary 25-year, 902-appearance career as the ultimate one-club man. He learned from the great Franco Baresi and then seamlessly took the mantle, carrying the Rossoneri through multiple generations of footballing evolution. Keeping the respect of a locker room filled with global superstars for a decade and a half is a feat of leadership that is honestly almost impossible to comprehend.
It's often been said that he made defending look like an art form reserved for masters. Maldini completely rejected the idea that defending had to be brutal or ugly.
He didn't rely on raw aggression or intimidation. Instead, he led through impossible timing, absolute perfect positioning, and a football brain that neutralized danger before it ever even fully developed. As the famous saying goes, if Maldini actually had to make a tackle, he considered it a mistake, because his positioning should have prevented the threat entirely in the first place. His teammates followed him because he literally embodied the very soul of Milan: pure class, consistency, and tactical perfection.
And that quiet authority, it delivered unmatched results. 7 Serie A titles, 5 Champions League titles. Maldini's consistent elegance created an unshakable winning mentality. Under his captaincy, excellence didn't feel like a massive, exhausting effort. It felt completely routine. He made winning feel like the natural, inevitable outcome of simply stepping onto the pitch. He proves that a captain can command absolute respect just by executing their job with flawless, masterful precision every single day for over 2 decades.
Section 4, the leadership blueprint. Let's look at the universal traits.
So, having analyzed these 5 absolute legends across our cinematic explainer today, what is the real takeaway here? What is the ultimate blueprint for leading a football dynasty? Well, whether you are building a team on the pitch or honestly building a team in a corporate boardroom, there are distinct, universal through lines we can draw from all our sources. You must enforce absolute accountability just like Keane. Anchor your team's emotions like Ramos. Sacrifice your ego and take the pain for the collective like Puyol. Spark belief under extreme pressure like Gerrard. And finally, maintain an elegant, unshakable consistency like Maldini. A truly perfect captain blends these traits, knowing exactly which tool to pull from their arsenal at any given moment.
So the crucial point I want to leave you with is this. The weight of the armband is completely universal. These archetypes stretch far, far beyond the football pitch. The lessons we learn from watching these titans provide universal blueprints for how we can lead, inspire, and act in our own high-pressure lives. Whether you're leading a massive project at work, captaining your local Sunday league team, or just trying to navigate the rapid challenges of everyday life, the core principles of accountability, sacrifice, and leading by example remain exactly the same. It all boils down to this fantastic thought. Leadership isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just being unbreakable when it matters most. Because at the end of the day, whether you are a ruthless enforcer screaming orders in the pouring rain, or an elegant maestro leading with quiet tactical brilliance, the goal is completely identical. Your job is to be the unbreakable spine that your team relies upon when the world is crashing down around them. You are the safety net, the spark, and the shield, all rolled into one.
As we conclude this explainer here on footballing, I really want to leave you with a question. Take a hard look at the current squad you support. Look at the player currently wearing the armband for your team. Which legendary archetype defines them? Are they a warrior, an enforcer, or a maestro? And more importantly, ask yourself, are they the kind of unbreakable leader you would willingly follow into battle? Think about it. Let us know your thoughts and keep studying the beautiful game. Thanks for learning with us today.